All right. Well, it's been a while since we've got together and done a podcast. First time we're actually recording one where we're showing our faces as well. So going to be a bit different.
Got to apologise in advance for that, but if you don't like us, it's okay. You don't have to watch.
But please do like and subscribe.
You don't have to like us. You just have to subscribe.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
It's a subscribe account.
Yeah. I know it's definitely been a while. Can't imagine what was keeping us occupied, but we've gone to doing it remotely for the first time, so it's going to be a bit of an interesting experiment. What could go wrong?
Yeah. So, give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure we'll get better as time progresses. But yeah, it's obviously been a while. There's been a fuck ton of things that have occurred. Probably just focus on some of the more recent things, I reckon, just because there's not enough time in the day to really cover everything that we'd probably like to.
Yeah, just do a full detailed recap of everything that's happened in the last 3 or 4 weeks. We'll not get on ahead. Should be fine.
Well, I left the house the other day, which being in Victoria here in Australia, that's quite big, very big milestone for me.
Jeez, are you okay? Did you catch anything that might have been contagious in any way, shape, or form?
I got assaulted by a far right Nazi who dared to walk around without wearing a mask when he was by himself in a park. So I haven't left since. I'm pretty traumatized.
I definitely imagine so. I've just got a couple of friends messaging me back down in my home of Tassie about the lockdown that they're entering now. I'm just like, I'm not going to say anything. It's not going to be a 3-day lockdown. It's never 3 days. No, it's just like you think it is. Apparently, everyone's very, very upset and up in arms about it, which I kind of get in one way. But it's like, have you been reading the news? Oh well.
But that's the thing. They're seeing what's occurred here in Victoria for us, where we were told, it's just going to be a short lockdown. It's been we've been in lockdown for most of the past 18 months, almost 2 years.
Yeah, and what is it like? It's over 3 months now, isn't it? Pretty consistent. 4 months. I can't even remember when the lockdown started. I
think it started near the end of June.
Seems like something we should remember, but just the prevalence of lockdowns here, it's kind of made it negligible to actually remember.
I mean, this is our 6th lockdown, so they all kind of blend into one.
Oh God, this is really depressing.
I can't even remember a life before lockdown.
Who would want to? No, I'm just sitting here I'm so sick of working from home in this tiny apartment, and now they're talking about vaccine mandates for workplaces, particularly workplaces that would be relevant for us. And I'm just I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to have no choice over basically getting what is ultimately an experimental medical procedure. And it didn't really sink in just how much of the case that was until a friend in the States got vaccinated with Moderna, and thank God she's fine, of course. Most people will be. But now they're pulling it from usage in some Scandinavian countries. It just illustrates how just untested a lot of this stuff is. And to try and get everybody to take something that's untested to that degree, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. It's anti-logic.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's anecdotal, but we've even got one of the guys in our team who he's managed to work for 1 hour this month, where halfway through the month, managed to work for 1 hour after getting his vaccination. He's just been buggered ever since. So the notion that it's completely safe is ridiculous. And I know they're not really saying that, but it's kind of what they're trying to push. It feels like they're saying, no, you get this, you're going to be fine. You might feel under the weather for a day or two, but you keep hearing more and more stories about people that have long-term repercussions from it. And like where like he's young,
Yeah.
he's fit. He was a personal trainer previously before lockdown. I'm sorry if he got COVID. It's probably not really gonna have much of a negative impact on him, I would assume. So it's kind of a catch-22. He's tried to do the right thing, and he suffered for it, and he's not alone in that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm being put in an untenable position with my job because it's mentally playing on my mind working from home for such a long period of time with so little contact. But is that the only alternative to going back to the workplace when there's a mandate that I really have a principled problem with? It's putting me in a bit of a hard spot, and I'm just waiting for that to come to a head.
So just to be clear, you're not an anti-vax, or you are?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like my brother and my mother are vaccinated, fully vaccinated shortly. I'm happy that they are. It makes them feel safer. And my mum's in her 60s now. I think she's in a group where everyone considered it would be a risk. So yeah, I'm very happy that they're vaccinated, and I've got no problem with vaccination by choice. That's an excellent thing, by like an informed choice, but not by.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where the discussion's been lost. You've got people that don't want to get vaccinated. They just don't appreciate being forced to.
I'd just rather wait.
Yeah,
I'd rather wait till we actually know a bit more about it, because anyone who says that we know enough now is just, I think they're just kidding themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is we're then expected to be providing our medical history. Essentially, if we're saying, yeah, I've got this, or I don't have this, we're being expected to provide that not just to medical professionals, but like if you want to go to get a haircut or go to the bar, you've got to show that you've been fully vaccinated just to be able to do that. Why does a private citizen deserve to know, like, my medical history or your medical history, or why would I deserve to know theirs?
That's exactly right. That's a pretty insane breach of privacy when you think about it, which is why a lot of people it's amazing that they're not thinking about it. They're just literally rolling over, and a lot of people are happy to do it. It's like, what if you told someone this was going to be the case back in 2017, and say you're like a conspiracy theorist and you was gone loopy, and now it's just been slowly, I don't know, people have been worn down and down and down there. At this point, they'll agree to anything, I think, just to get back to normalcy.
No, I agree. It's not a time that I think any of us could have predicted prior to March, April last year. And even then, initially, I don't think we really understood the severity of everything that was happening when we went into that like initial lockdown, and how that was going to play out and change how we do everything pretty much.
For sure. I remember a colleague, actually one of my old bosses, I remember when it was all starting, he was just like, look, it's nothing to worry about. It's just a variation of the SARS virus. Think of this, think of bird flu, and everything that's come before it was supposed to be this big global pandemic. None of them eventuated. Just like, just don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. I mean, no one could have known. I didn't know any better either, but it's just thinking now in comparison to what's happened, it's just fucking mental.
And it feels weird to think that Tiger King happened at the same time that this has all happened as well. Like, it feels like Tiger King was so long ago, but it's only 18 months. It's crazy.
These are the things that we'll be talking to the younger generation about in 20 years. The time of Tiger King and COVID-19. Joe Biden, I guess. Like three most significant, most. I'm getting a migraine. I mentioned Joe Biden. Fuck.
Yeah. Similar to Bloody Mary, if you say his name 3 times in the mirror, he comes out and says "Malaki at you" and takes away your black card.
Well, I mean, he probably can't say his own name 3 times in the mirror. He'll forget who he is on a second go.
Speaking of Biden, you seen that Kamala Harris video with all those kids where she's talking about like space exploration and everything?
Yes, I have.
It was
Gold, comedy gold.
but yeah, it was something. It was. She was talking to them like they're like 4 years old, and it looked like they were like early teens. So I don't know why she was talking to them like that, and then came out that I can't say if they were all actors, but one of them was an actor that apparently had actually asked his agent to be able to go there. So, and it did feel very staged, especially the way that she was talking. So it just makes it all weird. It's probably the most apt word to use.
Yeah, like it's knowing like what you know going into watching it. Like if you haven't seen it before, go watch it and know full well that she's speaking to actors. It's just absurd. It's just a TV spot. But to be fair, she's talking to them like at 4 years old. It's how she talked to Mike Pence in the presidential debates anyway. So maybe it's just how she talks.
Maybe. But what else is she doing other than that? Like Biden
is too used to talking to Joe Biden, actually. That would explain.
Yeah. But like what is he doing? Like Biden's not really capable of doing much, it seems. Like he's not all there. So you'd think she'd be taking on more responsibility, but it feels like she's kind of been disappearing to the ether more and more.
100%.
She was meant to be looking after the whole border crisis, and that's just went absolutely insane.
Yeah, you're right. Like, shouldn't she be trying to position herself as this strong old choice to Joe Biden and doing everything she can to inspire people that she's the right person for the job? Which I mean, she obviously isn't. No one thought she was even in the pre-selection, but like, give it a crack. Try and make people believe you, because you're giving them nothing right now.
And if she came out and it looked like she was genuinely trying to make a positive change, I may not like her, but I'd respect it. But when the only thing that I'm really seeing are her doing interviews where she's just dancing around questions and blatantly lying, or doing these other, I don't even know what you'd call it, with the kids. It's an ad, essentially. But I'm not seeing anything there where she's actually doing what her job's supposed to be. So I can't really respect much about her in terms of being the vice president.
She's having a laugh though, like constantly. Even the laugh doesn't sound real, but you know, she's having it. Good on her.
It's an evil laugh. It is an evil laugh she has.
True. I watched some clips from the most recent Resident Evil game, actually earlier today, with that vampire villainess, and I was like, I could draw some parallels. Especially the vampire part, I guess.
Yeah. It worries me that she and Biden are at the helm of everything, and things are just getting worse and worse. Like, I'm just glad that America is kind of set up where the federal government can only do so much, and the state governments have a lot of autonomy to make their own decisions. Like Florida turned around and went, forget about your mask mandates. Like, what was it? Ron DeSantis, whatever his name is, the governor for Florida. He's like, when this all first started, we were asking nurses to be on the front lines and go and help all these people that that had COVID or just had any sort of medical issues, stop putting themselves in harm. You had cops that had to work all throughout this. They were the ones going out to all these 911 calls. They were putting themselves in harm. And now you're just turning around and saying, no, if you won't do exactly what we tell you, you lose your job, pretty much, or you're not able to support your family. And he's like, fuck that. We're not going to do what you tell us.
Yeah, rage against the machine. Absolutely. Well, they're already taking a hit, like the numbers of police forces in a lot of the blue states, just due to the defunding movement. And now they're trying to rehire people because they realize how badly they fucked up for everyone involved. So you've got losing on that front. You've got losing on the front of cops don't want to be vaccinated a lot of the time. They don't want to be forced to do it, same way as military, same way as some healthcare professionals. It's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And so similar, I suppose, similar subject because it's all about the fall of America at the moment, but seemingly so. One of Tim Pool's videos the other day, I think it was yesterday, about the collapsing supply line and how it's not due to a lack of actual supplies, it's due to the ability to get those supplies to people. Because there's no one doing the jobs, there's no one producing a lot of the food. All the ports are backed up with shipping logs from like weeks or months ago. It's just an absolute perfect storm. I don't know how they're going to fix this, and I know Biden, I don't think he's capable of doing it. I don't think Kamala is either.
Yeah, I don't think anyone within their administration is. I mean, they're yet to show us that they are, and we can only really operate off what we've previously known or seen them do, or what we're currently seeing, and it's nothing. It doesn't even appear they're really trying. I'm sure they are. Well, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say I'm sure that whether or not it's Joe or Kamala, or if it's just staffers or whatever, I'm sure there are people trying to fix this, but I just don't think that they're the most qualified people to do it. And I think that's really showing. They seem very inexperienced with all of this.
Yeah, and for someone's in politics and has been vice president, and I mean, he's been a fixture in the landscape for 40 odd years. Kamala's been in
that time.
How much preparation do you need to be semi-competent? Far out.
I would assume some real world experience. Like there should be a cap, like a term cap on how long someone can actually be in politics. The fact that Biden's been in politics for 40 years is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like at some stage, he's going to be out of touch. He's not going to be the man of the working people. He's not going to be able to properly relate to them because he can't just go down to the pub and have a drink with them. Doesn't have recent experience going and working out at job sites or working in retail, doing a sell. Like regardless if it's a blue collar or white collar job, he just doesn't really have that experience anymore because he's been doing the same job for 40 years. So if it was up to me, I'd say, look, you can be in politics, but 10-year limit. One, you're going to be getting people in that are going to be doing it for the right reasons a lot more. You're going to you'd fix a lot more of like the bribery and corruption that comes with lobbyists as well. So that's something that I think it's not just America, like Australia needs to implement that as well.
It's worth considering. I mean, I don't know exactly the best way to implement it, but it's definitely an idea that'd be worth looking at because it's clearly not working, is it?
And then like if we like just touching on like corruption and whatnot, we look at New South Wales, which is like the biggest state in Australia. Their premier, which people in America is like their governor, and then deputy premier, or I don't know if there's like a deputy governor or whatever, sort of like the equivalent, like their number two. They both stepped down. Gladys Berejiklian stepped down because of corruption investigations where she was doing like dodgy, like giving a partner tips so he could do dodgy land sales before they announced that the state was going to be building a new airport. So a small, like he could buy land on the cheap, and all of a sudden its value just exploded exponentially. Then you've got John Barilaro, aka Bruz, who's just
oh, Bruzzy.
he's a
Oh,
piece of shit. Fuck John Barilaro, first of all. He's currently he's suing FriendlyJordies Jordan Shanks for defamation.
Yeah.
Because Jordan Shanks is like, you're corrupt. And then watching Jordan Shanks videos where he's talking about like kind of what's happening in the court cases, he's like, no, it's not corruption because I've always been open about pork barreling. So it can't be corruption if it's in the open. Like, this is why I think we need term limits. You can't have career politicians because there's only one reason you're going to be a career politician, and that's to be in it for yourself. You can't continuously be a voice for the people when you're in that sort of role for a prolonged period of time.
The worst response you can have to an allegation of corruption is, you think I'm corrupt now? Hold my fucking beer. But apparently that's the one that he was giving.
Wait for it. I'm going to go and send the terror police to go and arrest this guy's producer, push his mum over, kick their elderly dog. And then when someone asks me if I did it, I'm going to have a go at them and say absolutely not.
You got to be a special kind of piece of shit, though. I remember watching that video, and I'm pretty sure my mouth was open for some of it because I fucking couldn't believe
shocking.
It really was. I guess up there with rioters running rampant, like attacking police. That's the same kind of impact watching that had for me. It's just really fucking disgusting.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to have a go at America, but I like to think that our police are a bit more competent here than in America. Like, you're not seeing the same levels of brutality. Like, even if we get rid of the shootings, it's just they seem to be better trained and better equipped for the job. Now, obviously, you got to take into account the fact that 95% of people that they're going to be coming across aren't going to have a weapon on them, so police can kind of interact with them a bit easier.
True. True.
But it looked like something that you'd see in America or over in Russia, those sort of things. There's no use of an Australian police force or Australian beliefs.
For an allegation, it was just so flimsy and just unwarranting of that kind of response. It's just so over the top. And that is just trying to use a government agency or government defense agency, what have you, for your own secret. Man, I'm fucking so glad he's gone. It's just...
Be interesting to see what that means for the court case, because I'm pretty sure that there were certain things that they were like, no, can't really talk about this because he's got parliamentary privilege, but obviously he's not going to have that anymore.
Sure.
And then there's a lot of rumblings that, he's like, no, I think it's the right time for me to leave. I've dealt with the emotional toll of people being racist to me.
Oh no.
You called yourself the spaghetti eating champion, so people make fun of you for eating spaghetti. But there's a lot of talk that it's actually because ICAC's also investigating him, and that's probably going to be announced in the near future. Whether or not that is the case, I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, for a bloke that openly boasts about pork barreling.
There's like no information really available, really, so I can find on what's happening with the FriendlyJordies case now. I'm not really surprised regarding that, but it'll be very interesting.
The most recent thing I saw was New South Wales police went to court to try and get him to remove the videos talking about what happened and showing the footage, because it paints him in a bad light, and it's going to just like sway how potential jurors would look at it or something like that. But it's like,
bad light. Whose fault is that?
This is video. It's live footage of what happened. The only way it's going to paint you in a bad light is if you're in a bad light. So the magistrate turned and went, this is fucking ridiculous. No, he can keep the videos up. He can keep talking about it. That's not a problem.
I hope they're monetized still, or if they were monetized to begin with. If they're not, I hope they become monetized, because
I'm pretty sure they are, because John Barilaro has also included Google in like his defamation suit because they allowed him to put the videos up, and I think have them monetized and make money off it. So I'm assuming they are monetized. I'm not an expert on all of this, just kind of talking from what I've seen and read, but yeah, it's interesting. It's potentially a change in our freedoms where comedians, like if anyone, especially comedians, can't joke about our politicians, where does that kind of leave us in terms of trying to think of ourselves as like a free country or free people?
Yeah, there's a lot riding on this in terms of precedent. I mean, even, not just in New South Wales, like even nationally, people are going, and I believe it made international news as well, didn't it?
It did, yeah. It was
I don't remember the channel. Was the US one?
Yeah, pretty sure it was Fox that showed it.
Yeah, no, it sounds like something Fox would cover when a lot of other news agencies there probably wouldn't touch it. But I'm glad it's
which is odd because like FriendlyJordies and Fox are polar opposites in terms of where they land politically, but in terms of the values of free speech, feels like it's more aligned with Fox and like CNN, for instance. Or
it's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd be very interested in finding out when that changed. It used to be that the left were really all about free speech,
yeah,
and freedom of choice, and it flipped, but I don't know exactly when it flipped.
I think it would have been maybe like during the Bush years. I don't know. It just seems like when it really started gunning for someone. I mean, again, I was pretty young at that time, so I probably couldn't really say, but I'd be speculating it would be around there.
I feel like it's been more recent than that. Like in terms of it being a more noticeable kind of change in philosophy, kind of across the board.
Yeah. It'd be easy to just say it's Trump, but I think it's been a bit more gradual.
Yeah, it wasn't just a overnight change for sure, but Trump definitely accelerated things, I reckon.
Absolutely.
I've got a question for you.
Oh no.
Can you be both pro-abortion and pro-mandated vaccines?
I suppose pro-abortion would really be more categorized as pro-choice. Yeah, I don't think anyone's too like super excited to get abortions, but I don't know. Maybe
the whole argument is my body, my choice.
Yeah. So can you be? I don't know if you want to remain logically consistent to your own beliefs. I don't think so. Yeah, that's an interesting point.
I was having a chat with one of my friends, and she's one of those people that constantly just post, like Facebook, Instagram, just constantly posting all this fucking, not necessarily political, but cultural kind of stuff. She's very left leaning.
But
then recently just constantly talking about vaccines and saying how if you're not getting the vaccine, you're a piece of shit. You don't care about your friends or neighbors or all that sort of stuff. I'm like, this is a bit weird here. On one hand, you're saying that you should be able to do whatever you want with your body. If you want to get an abortion, free to get an abortion. If you want to, like, she wants to legalize all drugs. If you want to go and put whatever drugs you want in your body, go and do it. But you need to go and get this vaccine. You don't get a choice in that. It's an interesting concept that I don't quite get.
Yeah, well, even on legalize all drugs, talking about weed and cocaine and everything like that is relatively benign. Well, something like PCP can make you a danger to other people. So that's an interesting position to hold as well.
I'm not a fan. I'm not necessarily a fan of legal. I love drugs. I'll be the first to admit that. You know it. I love them. You don't necessarily need illegal. Just decriminalize them.
Mm.
So that way, yeah, if I've got a bag of coke on me, so what? I don't need to worry about getting arrested. But if I'm on coke and I go and do something stupid and assault someone, I should still be held to account for that. And the fact that I was on it should impact the outcome of the trial or sentence or whatever. Like people should own their mistakes. Sort of what I believe of there.
Yeah, they definitely should, but at the same time, if you're taking something that is known to make people more aggressive, then it shouldn't just be something you can deal with after the fact when you could mitigate it beforehand just by making it a prohibited substance. But yeah, it's not really something I've had a firm opinion on before. I'm kind of just working through it now, and since it's come up, trying to work out exactly where I stand.
Well, I remember this is going back years ago, but Joe Rogan had someone on. I want to say his name was Carl Webster. Could be completely wrong. He's like a doctor, scientist, specializes in drugs. And I remember him talking about, I want to say Switzerland. They set up similar to what we've done here, but with the injecting rooms, but they did it right.
Okay.
But because they're able to do that, they're able to make sure that the drugs themselves are actually clean. They're not cut with all this nasty shit. So people aren't actually having as much adverse effects from the drugs, such as overdoses, or long-term health issues, but also, in terms of while they're on it, they're not being as aggressive. They're not as much of a danger because they're able to turn around and go, this isn't safe. It's cut with X, Y, Z. Don't do it. I think like you could buy drugs, and like obviously they're not selling it, but it was a safe haven for dealers to go. They could sell there without having to worry about repercussions.
Interesting.
So if that is, and this is going back years, so what I've been saying may not be 100% factual. So I do apologize if I have got something wrong there, but that's something that could work because we can't. We're not going to the government's not going to win the war on drugs. Drugs won years ago. So I don't know why they're still pretending that they're going to win and people are just going to stop doing them.
Yeah. If you've got dealers able to deal safely, incentives, I mean, incentivizing dealers, there's a lot of other crime that goes along with the trade, of course, so that'd be another aspect. But
then if they're able to sell, but it's in a set location that they're able to do it,
but still be supply from somewhere. Yeah, I don't know.
They'd still get the supply. I'm not saying it's all, as I'm not saying for it all to be legalized, but it's a buyer's market. If you've got good product, people are going to buy from you. If you've got bad product, people aren't going to buy from you. So if you're selling stuff that's cut and people are able to buy it, automatically go, get it testing, come and turn around and go, this isn't coca, this is fucking fentanyl or whatever. That person's not going to be able to continue dealing because people won't buy off them. So it's going to, I believe at least, it'd lead to cleaner, safer gear actually being sold to people as well, which would lead to less overdose.
I tried selling Omo at one of those clinics and they never let me back. But apparently, anecdotally, well, from I think it was ABC months ago, they did a bit of a report on the effectiveness of the injecting rooms in the one in Richmond. And I think it was because they were thinking about opening one in Flinders Street as well in the city. And
yeah, they were doing that right next to our old office, a minute away.
They should open it in the office. I mean, it's probably not going to affect the quality of the places. But apparently it is effective. There is a noticeable positive impact that it's having. So I thought that was really interesting because that's not something that I would have really considered before. I can definitely be more open-minded about than I have been in the past.
I think you got to pick the locations as well. From what I don't really go to that part of Melbourne. It's been quite a while since I've went to Richmond, but I'm pretty sure it's like right next to a school. So one of the complaints isn't necessarily giving people a safe place to shoot up, for instance. It's why would you have this right next to a primary school? And then there have been a lot of instances of the schools like locked down because there's someone walking around with a knife. There been people that have overdosed and shit on the school. Like, so
that's pretty fucked up. Yeah, I didn't realize it was as close to
I think that's what like the major, at least from what I've read about, that's just the major concern is not necessarily giving people a safe place to eject. It's don't do it right next to a fucking school, or like where they were planning on putting that in Melbourne CBD was across the road from Flinders Street Station, which is our like main station. Fuck, you want right next to De Graves,
Federation Square, right there. It's like the heart of Melbourne.
Like, if you want to scare off tourists, fucking go ahead.
Depends what kind of tourists you're trying to pander to. Maybe it would become like the Amsterdam of heroin.
Still remember seeing all those fucking junkies dropping in that alleyway across the road.
Yeah, I never witnessed that. So
the summers back in the day were crazy, man. The amount of cunts that just fucking dropped.
It's wrong, but we're all responsible for
honestly
actions.
I'd feel a lot worse for them if we weren't, and you've seen it on a near daily basis, dealing with them trying to start shit and making some people just uncomfortable being outside. Like, if they weren't being an absolute menace to society and impacting our ability to enjoy ourselves, I'd feel a lot more sympathy when one of them does OD, but
yeah. Well, such is life. Too bad, so sad. Plenty of people dying of things around it aren't their fault. Yeah, it would be pretty hard to actually find a place where you could easily get one of those centers set up, because everyone is going to have a problem with it. Like,
originally they were looking at Queen Vic Market around there, I think.
See, nowhere's going to be a good place. No one's going to just be like, beauty, it's going to triple my customer base. No, I don't have money. Spend it all on drugs.
Collingwood.
Yeah, just stick it in Collingwood then.
It's already injected inside anyway, so.
Wait, Essendon, right near the footy club. Should be fine.
Yeah, I think they probably already got a lot of stuff set up there, so Essendon's probably the way to go.
Do you ever love, you reckon? Yeah. It's called an even playing field. Look it up.
It's not that they were on steroids. It's that no one else was. That's what everyone's really mad about.
If you talk to the company that's produced the steroids, then that would be a very good argument. Maybe you could like get into their customer service.
I mean, when it comes to MMA, I've got no issue with people being on steroids, as long as they're both on fucking steroids. If it's still somewhat even, I'm all for it. Where it's uneven, that's where I think the roid thing's a bit of an issue.
What if they're on hormone injections?
They can, yeah. Maybe grow up and just stop playing make-believe.
Maybe stop beating the shit out of females. I remember when that was cool, like, always.
Yeah, and that fucking one over in America where the dad gets arrested for going to a school meet and he's like arcing up. I don't think he actually assaulted anyone. I think it's just more like a verbal altercation.
He just arced up,
yeah, but then like there's all this stuff, these people should be treated as domestic terrorists, blah 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 blah. Fuck you, Department of Justice over in America, by the way. Y'all are cunts. But then it turns out the reason why he's going in there and fucking losing his mind is because his daughter was like sexually assaulted or physically assaulted. I don't know if I think that there was sexual assault that took place, but regardless, by a kid that's saying that he's a chick so he can go into the toilets, and then doing this, and the school's not only denying it, they're covering it up, and it doesn't look like this is the first time that they have covered up like assaults. So
really fucking sad. They've created an environment where it's not possible to have an honest conversation about it. So it's not even a case where things can be solved without probably very lengthy court proceedings, and probably more than one. And then since if it's a similar case in other states, it's gone too far down one way without considering consequences.
Yeah, like, and look, I know people probably listen to this and think that I've got an issue with people that are transgender. I don't. I've got an issue with people allowing kids or forcing kids in some instances. Not all, but there are plenty where parents are kind of forcing their kids to say that they like believe that they're the opposite sex of what they actually are, and then giving them puberty blockers, hormone therapies and stuff. I'm against all of that.
It's just child abuse. That's all it is.
It is. Look, once you're 21, do whatever you want, because by then your frontal cortex or whatever it is meant to have fully developed. You should be able to make properly informed decisions by then. Do whatever you want. Whether or not I agree with it doesn't matter. I'm not going to say that you can't do it. I'm not going to try and stop you from doing it. If you're trying to get kids to do it, that's where I've got a problem with it. Are you like, where do you kind of stand on the whole transgender and I guess more specifically kids?
Pretty close, I reckon. I understand that for young people, like teenagers that are really certain of how to feeling, I mean, it might not mean they're always going to be feeling certain because, as you said, brains haven't developed fully at the time. But there is the argument that developmentally they're going to develop more into the sex that they wouldn't identify with in that period. So yes, they can take blockers and whatnot at 21, but it's still bodies are going to develop further into a way that they wouldn't really identify with. However, it's for kids, like for actual kids, the pre-teens, all that kind of thing, I think it is just child abuse. It's not something that should be encouraged or condoned or forced. But when you get like old enough to even be legally emancipated, if it came down to that, like if you're 16, 17, what have you, I think it gets a lot harder to say.
My counter, sorry to jump in there, but my counter argument to that, because that is a good point. But think about when you're 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
One, you don't know what the fuck's going on. But two, and this isn't for everyone, but most kids just want to be accepted. They want to feel loved. They want to they want to feel part of some community. As a kid, you're not really part of a proper community because you haven't been able to properly form those sort of long-lasting relationships. So if there's a way for you to get social points, you're going to do it. Now, back when we were growing up, that may have been more just going and doing something stupid at a party or playing footy or something like that. Now, there is plenty of cases that show there are people that are claiming to be transgender actually taking like puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Purely because their friends here. I think it was more prevalent amongst females than males where they were doing that. So that's why I've got an issue even when they are kind of at that age where you'd think they'd be able to make informed decision. They're not, because they're still too heavily influenced by all these other outside factors around them.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that, and putting outright, like it does, I suppose, change my position a bit there. I still think it's not something where I can really have a definitive opinion, because you are old enough to make decisions for yourself at some stage down there. It probably depends on the person, but with the amount of people, and particularly girls that have actually come forward and after the fact, like well into their 20s, said how much they wanted to change what they've done, and they can't go back, and how the trans community, and the part of the community that is very vocal, the activist part, absolutely rips them to shreds and disowns them as people when they want to detransition. The whole thing,
the fucking worst. Like, once you're part of that community, you've got to be part of it forever. Otherwise, they're out for blood.
Well, yeah, you got to be part of it forever, unless you're in the 40% of the trans people that end up committing suicide.
You're there for they're there for their forever, okay, Jacob?
As a parent, why would you want your child to be actively pushed into a lifestyle that has a 40% fucking mortality rate for suicide? Riddle me that, because it doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. Yeah. Just because it's popular, just because you want the attention. It's kind of like child pageantry in a way. It is social credit for the adults the same way as it can be for teenagers.
Absolutely, yeah. And just touching on like the 40% where they turn around and go, the reason why it's so high is because we're not accepted, we're marginalized. Like, most people are afraid to fucking say anything about transgender people anymore, LGBTQI, whatever anymore. Because the repercussions can be so bad. Just for turning around going, hey, I don't think this is right. People can lose their jobs. But you haven't seen those numbers in their suicides drop from what I've seen. So is it really because you're not being accepted, or is it something more with hormone imbalances, or it could be anything? I'm just not buying into the whole we're not accepted, that's why 40% of us are killing ourselves.
Yeah. I know we've talked about Dave Chappelle before. He's got a new special out, which probably not as funny as his previous ones, but still quite good, I thought. But the thing that it's most known for at the moment is trans activists saying that he is punching down. And there was a reply to it. I'm not sure if it was his reply or if it was a political pundit's reply, but it was basically like, well, once you find a group of people that you can't criticize and you can't make jokes about, you're not punching down at them. They're the ones that have the power socially. Yeah. Absolutely right.
I don't know if he said that, but he said something similar, and you're right, definitely wasn't his funniest one, but it was good. It was more like it was one side. It was more like a conversation more than anything. Yeah.
He felt he had something he needed to say, delivered it that way. I mean, there's plenty of worse attempts to do that kind of comedy out there.
But then, like what we were talking about before, where people try and leave the community, it's not just necessarily trying to leave the community, it's speaking up or defending someone that they think is against them, where he's talking about his friend who was transgender, wanted to be a comedian, loved to consider it a really good friend. And then when they tried to defend Dave Chappelle, they just got piled on by everyone and ended up taking their own life. Like, yeah, I don't think you can really say you're all one community or one people when you instantly attack anyone that won't support the exact same thing as you. Like,
it's the perils of collectivism and intersectionality. It's not like one hive mind. Everyone is different. I'm sure a lot of trans people are absolutely horrified by hearing that. I'm sure a lot don't have a problem with Dave Chappelle, but when it's for people,
the issue is they're not vocal about it. It's a minority, but it's a very vocal minority that somehow managed to gain a lot of both political and social power.
It's really destructive and really unhealthy. And it's probably one of the worst types of, I suppose, the worst types of anything, for lack of a better word, in modern society is just collectivism and the inability to recognize that individuals have different opinions, to respect them, to not try and just demolish them and ruin their lives for disagreeing with you. Because, good God.
That's just, it feels like that's the way that society's going. It's just, I think the next 10 to 20 years is going to be a defining moment in how we as a species kind of progress and how long we will actually be around, because you can very, like before this stuff, you can see it leading to more infighting. I mean, it constantly looks like America's almost on the verge of a civil war. You keep doing this us versus them, eventually there's going to be a boiling point. And we're seeing that here in Melbourne, like with the mandated vaccines. And then we had all the protests in Melbourne, which, you know, I don't know if you actually saw it, but it was pretty much right outside your doorstep.
I didn't actually see any of it, apart from, like, you look down the street, you can see cops everywhere, like right at the end of the street. But I don't think anything other than helicopter flyovers really came by my place. You could hear it. You could definitely hear it.
And the police presence hasn't let up. Like I went into your place after all those protests had happened, and just before I got to your place, there were a bunch of like 10 plus cops on the other side of the road starting to walk towards you. I'm like, they're still looking. They're just worried that anyone's going to be kind of arcing up or going against what they're kind of enforcing at the moment.
Yeah, which pretty natural, I guess, but it's also pretty confronting for the actual person, the normal person trying to go about their lives.
Yeah. Did you see that interview that cop did where she was like, effective as soon as this interview's over, I've resigned from Victoria Police because if I don't resign, I'm going to be fired?
No, I didn't.
No. So
when was that?
Within the past, I want to say within the past week, maybe 2 weeks at most. So it was very recent.
I'd be interested.
Yeah, when I find it, I'll send it across to you. I might even I'll also put it in the bio for this on YouTube. So if anyone watching it wants to have a look into that as well, just follow the link there. But essentially, they're going, look, most cops don't really want to be enforcing these laws either. And she's like, I'm a cop. I don't feel safe when I'm leaving my house to go and do exercise, because we could only do exercise, was it for like an hour or a couple of hours now? You can only leave the house.
Yeah.
And she's like, you don't want to look the cops in the eyes. They don't want to look you in the eyes. Everyone's afraid. No one feels safe. No one really agrees with what's going on. And the only reason why, like, these protests have turned violent in sort of small sections. For the most part, the protests haven't been violent. There's just been small pockets of it. But it's because the police are forced to go and try and shut these specific protests down. When there have been protests for like Black Lives Matter, and there have been one or two other ones, the cops have been told, stand back, let them do whatever they want. But this one's going against us politically, sort of thing. The cops being forced to come in heavy-handed, and that's leading to violence, leading to a lot of anti-police sort of sentiment. It's you have to watch it. It was a strong interview, like in terms of the message that it conveyed, where police are saying, I can't do this anymore.
I always kind of thought that there must be people out there in the police force who feel that way. I haven't actually seen anything, so that would be something I'd like to check out. And I can only imagine what it would be like to be a cop, being in a group where you're actually outnumbered and you see a group of people that were, until months ago, probably just normal people, not combatants.
And odds
Like,
are they're probably the people that were more supportive of the police.
yeah,
Like when you think about the political left that have, or social, I'm not going to say political, but cultural left that have come in pushing for let's defund the police, or get rid of the police, or we need to change all these different aspects of the police. And it's kind of been more of like the center and the right that have been saying, no, we need to increase the funding with the police and give them better training. We don't, last thing we want to do is defund them or get rid of them. But this has kind of changed that. Now it's who's really supporting the police.
I think the police in Australia probably have access to more like tactical military grade weaponry than maybe a police force should have, but I guess that's pretty hard to quantify.
If you listen to Tim Pool, they're just going down all our streets in tanks. So
that was pretty amazing. But I like Tim Pool, but sometimes he's got some strange things to say.
Yeah. He misses the mark almost every time he talks about Australia.
That's actually one of the funniest things still.
And we're quite critical of what's being done in Australia with all these lockdowns. And it's like, that doesn't mean you're going to lie or exaggerate about what's occurring. Turn around going,
I don't know where
concentration.
Yeah, we've got concentration camps and we've got tanks going down the roads. Like, maybe it was because the military was involved with some aspects of like the Ring of Steel when they were really dividing up suburbs.
I mean, I can kind of talk to the Ring of Steel because, as you know, I live just outside of Melbourne. I had to pass through that Ring of Steel to get to and from work at the time.
Wouldn't be the first time you passed through a Ring of Steel.
Hey. But even then, the military weren't really doing it. They were just there to kind of help provide support in terms of managing the traffic. There was always the cops that were kind of going, hey, where are you going? What's going on? I think I interacted with the military twice in however many months they were there. And both times it was like fucking 3 a.m. It's like, hey, where you going? Going home. All right, too easy. Have a good one, mate. Off you go.
So, no one took you to a camp of any description?
No. And I mean, I'm Jewish, so I'm kind of the ideal candidate for it. Like, this guy knows what's up. Okay, he already knows what the gig is. But I had no negative impacts with the military. I found the cops were a lot worse in terms of how they were interacting. They were constantly trying to accuse me. I'm like, it's fucking 3 a.m. I've obviously had a few drinks and almost falling asleep. Pretty clear I'm trying to go home. Where else am I going to do at fucking 3 a.m. in regional Victoria? Nothing's open. It's not like I'm trying to go somewhere so I can go to another fucking bar or something. There's nothing. It all closes at like fucking 9 or 10 o'clock.
I think since COVID started, I haven't had a single interaction with a police officer, apart from like actively calling them about an incident that happened in my building. But like COVID related, not a good, bad, neutral reaction, interaction.
I had a few because I've got an exemption for wearing a mask because of a health issue, obviously. So I've been a few times where they've turned around and just go, where's your mask? Just kind of tap at like their face. I'm just like, I've got an exemption. Okay, too easy. I had one that kind of went, no, you got to show me it. I like a lot of people saying they've got it sort of thing. So it's not necessarily that they'll call me a liar. They wanted the proof. But for the most part, it's like, cool. Okay, you've got an exemption. Go about your day. So when you see those videos of people kind of getting pulled up by the cops and going sideways, it's like how much of like what occurred before all of this was recording, because at least for me, pretty much in all of my interactions, it's all been quite cordial. They've just been either, yep, you're good, we believe you, or go over there, can you just quickly show me? Yeah, cool, have a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always waiting for like some kind of I don't know, type of interaction. But when I think about it, well, we've got no reason to interact with me anyway. I'm not doing the wrong thing. Just walking around with a mask on, waiting for things to get back to normal. Because what else can you fucking do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been organising any protests.
So I'd be curious. You know how your apartment tends to get fucking evacuated a fair bit. Putting it mildly, there's always something going on there. If it got evacuated and you didn't have a mask, do you reckon the cops would say to you, they're just trying to go, you just had to quickly leave your apartment, we're going to let it slide? Or like, when it's been evacuated, have you had police rock up or anything like that?
No, just fire engines.
Okay.
Some idiots have been deliberately setting off alarms apparently, but no. Apart from there were police the other day when there was a mysterious incident to some serious police unit or special police unit.
Special police unit is like, what the fuck is a special police unit?
Yeah, and like I could find next to no information about anything. It was stuff, and we're doing an investigation. Like,
it's the anti-terror unit. Jordan Shank's producer moved down here in your apartment building.
They'd probably just send a wrecking ball through it to make sure they don't want to overreact now. This building is trash. I just fucking can't wait to get out of here.
Can't wait to pass out at your new place. It's only a matter of time.
Oh, you don't know what'll happen after you pass out.
I never do.
See, that's why he keeps coming back to Jacob's Casino.
Hit me.
That was off colour. I apologise to the viewing public, all three of them.
You think we're going to get 3 viewers? Fuck, not bad. I'll take it.
I mean, if you watch once and I watch once and
your mum watches once.
There's a heroin addict outside, so don't know if
probably gonna ask to use your phone to watch it.
Yeah, I'll give him my phone. That sounds like a great idea. All right. What do you reckon we wrap it up here?
I reckon wrap it up here, but yeah, I reckon we'll try and do this a bit more. Obviously, it's our first attempt, guys. Please don't be too critical. We're trying to do this all apart from each other, so it's not going to be as free playing as it probably is when we're in person. Even that's not always great. But anything you'd like to add?
Just the probably the level of content hasn't taken too much of a hit. We're still pretty bad. Yeah,
but maybe actually seeing us will make things a bit better. Who knows? Or worse.
It's too late now.
Probably worse. But yeah, guys, if you did like it, chuck a like, chuck subscribe, leave a comment. If there's anything that you do want us to talk about, if there's anything that we've talked about and you kind of want to know more about it, chuck a comment. We'll try and get back to you. But thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And cheers for joining, mate. Cheers.